What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. The gaming summer showcase season is upon us, with now Sony announcing a massive state of play. In fact, the way that they're describing it, it sort of sounds like a showcase, but we'll go over exactly what's happening with that here today. Also, we are going to be talking about Nintendo and the Switch 2, with the sales going absolutely crazy for the month of April, and a lot of that's thanks to one major release in particular. And we have some announcements coming out of Embracer Group, some in terms of IPs that they're looking to revive, and then one studio in particular, well, turning to The Lord of the Rings, and it's one that makes a lot of sense and I think fits really, really well, but we'll go over all of that and more. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button, and of course, if you're new here to the Spawn Wave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. Guys, we're every weekday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time, going over the world of gaming news, trying to keep you up to date, so just know, even if you don't get a notification, there's probably a video here still to check out. And we're gonna start today with the ever-successful world of live service games. Well, actually, this time, like many times, it's a live service game that launched and then just a few months later is going away. And this is actually the one from Quantic Dream that, yeah, it launched in February. And, well, it's just about gone now. We can see this is the statement they released, saying, "Today, Quantic Dream is announcing the discontinuation of the development of Spellcasters Chronicles." So we had talked about it. It was first announced at the end of 2025, and they went to closed beta, and they set out to announce it and release it in early access just in February, and now it's shutting down June 19th. Now, if you're someone who did put money into this, they say you will be able to just get a full refund, but you will have to request it, so it's not something they're doing by default, all right? So be vigilant there. If you put some money in, you should be able to get it back, but you're gonna have to do some legwork there. They do say the development of Star Wars Eclipse is not affected by this decision and continues as planned. It feels like this Spellcasters Chronicles, I don't know if it was an obligation on their part or what. It just seems so out of left field when they made that announcement, because we thought, oh, here comes Quantic Dream with some kind of update for Star Wars Eclipse. And they're like, no, here's this 3v3 free-to-play MOBA hero game. It was very strange. It's a game that looks like I've seen many, many times already. And now here we are months later with them announcing that it's shutting down, and I guess full speed ahead on Star Wars Eclipse, although that is also kind of in question at times with some of the delays and development issues behind the scenes. Also, there's a rumor that's been going around over the last 24 hours for Grand Theft Auto 6, and you can see this is the screenshot that's going everywhere right now on social media, and yeah, it's from 4chan, but it basically says that GTA 6 will be delayed until February 2027, with PC planned for May 2027. I didn't want to give this too much time, but a lot of people were asking me about this, and we're going to find out something today, as Take-Two does have their earnings report, and then they should be doing an earnings call with investors, because of course they would be, since we're 6 months away from GTA 6 coming out. It's going to be the biggest launch in gaming history. I think now you can look at it as the most expensive entertainment product ever. So yeah, they're gonna have to say something about it. And if they don't tell investors today that they're delaying it, again, I assume it's coming out in November. Strauss Zelnick, we talked about the interview, him confirming it just, a week ago, not even, that it is coming out in November. So that's still my belief until they say otherwise. But again, keep an eye out for today with this earnings call. Of course, I'll also keep you guys up to date tomorrow in Newswave. Oh, and we had some big news here for Genshin Impact fans. You can see, as it was noted, as of 6.5.50, a Nintendo Switch account login manager has been added to the game, at least internally. So this is done like a data mine where they're looking through some of the files, so it's not live at this time, but the fact that this is happening behind the scenes does make sense. They'd be prepping for a launch on, I'm gonna assume, Switch 2, because it would be so strange that now would be the time they go, you know what, we have to get it on the Switch 1 now. It feels like there have been years that they would have done that, so I would figure they're looking to the Switch 2 for Genshin Impact to release, and they're just, it's just the typical Nintendo Switch Online, like, account login stuff that would work for either one. So that would be my assumption, but we'll probably find out more maybe in a Nintendo Direct that we're thinking is going to happen in June, just based on recent reports. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with Sony and their state of play that they announced yesterday, which you can see. Now, this is in the tweet heard around the world, and I can say that because more than 11 million views on this thing at the time of this recording since they made the announcement saying State of Play returns on June 2nd. The over hour-long show includes an extended look at Marvel's Wolverine, which we've been kind of waiting to hear more about that. Remember they said sometime in the spring, and this is just going to make the cutoff, it seems. Say plus news and updates on upcoming PlayStation 5 games. If we take a look over on the PlayStation blog page here, it does say to kick things off, you get a closer look at Marvel's Wolverine. Insomniac Games will share more from its upcoming third-person action-adventure game showing off Logan's brutal and relentless combat, along with some new detail. They also mention here that there will be a special Alamo Draft House State of Play viewings that'll be taking place. They list a number of different cities that you'll be able to go to the theater and see this State of Play, which doesn't necessarily sound like something you would do for, one of those 25 or 30 minute State of Plays where people get a couple of, maybe one or two big announcements out of it. This kind of feels like maybe the showcase thing has been, maybe that branding has been kind of retired and it's just State of Play going forward. Again, it's more than an hour long. They're going to have some big studios here. And that would be my assumption now is this is the way they're going to do State of Play going forward. So here are some games that I would expect here. Now, we already know Wolverine, that's obvious. I feel like that's going to be a big push here. Probably be 10 to 15 minutes, honestly. They're going to do one of those little dedicated State of Plays, kind of attach this sort of in here. Not necessarily the closeout, I assume, but it'll be something that they'll show off here, probably between other games. So we already know that there is this God of War Faye game from Cory Barlog that should be shown here. It sounded like it was being prepped to be revealed over the summer. Here we are now with an hour plus State of Play. I actually think this would be a good closeout, only because God of War is an incredibly strong franchise for Sony right now, and I think that'd get people really, really excited to see this pop up, something new in the God of War universe. And I'm curious because the gameplay sounds like the way it's described, it'd be more like some of the Greek saga God of War games. I do think there are people who, while they like the current God of War setup with 2018 and Ragnarok, you've seen that a couple times now, but you still think back to the old days with Kratos going crazy all over the place, more of that isometric zoomed out view. I think this would work really well for that, right? Horizon Hunter's Gathering, a release date, it kind of makes sense. I'm going to throw fair games into every single State of Play until either Haven shows up or they announce that Haven's been shut down, okay? Fair games is in there somewhere in my predictions all day long. I'm going to go for a couple of third-party games. I'll say Square Enix with Final Fantasy VII Part 3. We keep hearing about it in the news, and it's like, come on, let's get the show on the road here for Part 3. And then I'm gonna throw Capcom in I'll do Devil May Cry 6. Yeah, I'm gonna take a shot with that one, all right? And I'll do some other predictions as we get closer to the event, because let's face it, there'll probably be some news or some rumors or leaks, whatever. Something will get out there and we can kind of put together a list. But for the last one, I will throw in one more first-party studio, Media Molecule. They're coming off of Dreams. It's been a couple of years since we heard that they were working on a new game that feels more like a game. So let's see what they have. All right, just show it. Even if it's not ready for a year and a half or so, just show what they're working on. I'm just curious where their minds go to after Dreams. Okay, so this now sets us up nicely for the first week of June, right? With big events currently: State of Play, June 2nd, Summer Game Fest, June 5th, and then the Xbox Showcase, June 7th. So it's almost every other day that we have a big showcase and event. Starting to feel a little bit E3-esque in there, although you would also have, like your other smaller companies, we'll say. You have Capcom, Konami, Square Enix or Ubisoft holding their own events. But here, though, we at least have 3 big ones to look forward to, and we believe that there will be a Nintendo Direct somewhere in there as well, even if that's the following week. Like, maybe it's, maybe the 10th, 11th, 12th, somewhere in that week. Maybe the Nintendo Direct is in there, and then it really does feel like this run of E3 presentations, and that'll be a lot of fun. But this State of Play, I think, is going to be pretty big overall. I think there's gonna be quite a few first-party announcements in there, and I think it'll be a lot of fun. So looking forward to it. 2 weeks notice. Yeah, I don't think Sony's messing around on this one. Next up, let's talk about the Switch 2 sales in April, which absolutely took over the charts. Not only the hardware sales, but also game sales. And it's a game that I kind of figured would do well, even though I wasn't as interested in it. the momentum was there for this title, and it certainly delivered here. So let's take a look. This is over on Matt Piscatella's social media account, and he does have an interesting note here, okay? This is something seems new for Circana, because he did have to at least explain it, saying that April 2026 features the debut of Circana's top 10 best-selling video game charts projected to total market. So we have a few different new symbols in here on the charts with, for example, ones like the arrow here in the charts that includes digital point of sale actuals from Digital Leaders panel, digital data sharing publishers, while titles featuring, it looks almost like, so there's like a star in there. Those are some that have projected digital volume. All right, so they can project out amounts, I assume, just based on data that they're extrapolating there. But that does lead us to, we can see the top 10. And yes, Tamagotchi Life is indeed number one, living the dream. That's with the projected sales data in there, okay? So they don't get the numbers specifically from Nintendo, it seems, but they're able to come to the determination that it was the number one selling game for the month of April. Remember, that did come out like halfway through April. This does track into May slightly, so 2 days by May 2nd. But still, that is quite impressive for just about 2 weeks, maybe a little more than that, right, on the market to be putting up those kind of numbers. Okay, then we have Pragmata, that's number 2. Awesome to see a new IP from Capcom doing that well. I enjoyed it quite a bit, definitely recommend that one. Crimson Desert dropped from 1 down to 3, still very, very strong for that title. And will be the show 26 at 4. Windrose, that's at 5. That is, that's interesting. Okay, so I know, I saw that on Steam, and again, I don't know if it's my kind of game or not. People really are enjoying it quite a bit, but interesting to see that one pop up at number 5. We have Pokemon Pocopia, that drops down to 6. Super Mario Galaxy 1 and 2, that jumped, by the way, from 13 to 7, so I guess shout out to the Mario movie on that one. Starfield had a pretty significant jump from 218 to 8, so I guess shout out to the PS5 on that one. Saros, by the way, this only includes 3 days of it on sale, and it's number 9. That's not bad. And then we have number 10 being Mario Kart World rounding out the list. Now, if we move up to hardware, okay, so the overall hardware spending increased by 34% when it compared to a year ago. And a lot of this has to do with the Switch 2 offsetting hardware declines for the Switch. That was down almost 70% versus last year. The Xbox Series down almost 43% from last year. And the PlayStation 5 down almost 30% from last year. And as you assumed, the Switch 2 was the best-selling hardware platform across both units and dollars for April and 2026 year to date, with PlayStation 5 ranking across second for both measures. And it's important to note, because Matt's been doing this where he's kind of lining up how the first year is going between the Switch 1 versus the Switch 2 when you do the launch alignment, and Switch 2 is still leading ahead of the Switch 1's pace by about 11%, and I would assume the Switch 2 is just going to finish ahead of the Switch 1 in terms of that first year. Hard to say what's going to happen when the Switch 2 just goes up in price, because it's just tough to sell systems when it gets more expensive as you go along. That's just the way it is with the market trends, price sensitivity, and the Switch 2 then coming in at $500 to start. That's an expensive system for Nintendo to be selling. However you feel about the system, it's $500 starting prices. That's a tough one. I do think they still need to figure out ways to get cheaper if possible with the Switch 2 Lite, but the Switch 2 is set to have a historic year 1, and it'll just be interesting to see how things go when they get along to a big 3D Zelda, a big 3D Mario, and Animal Crossing, and of course, the next big Pokemon games that'll be coming out next year. Next up, let's talk about Warhorse Studios, as they had a couple of announcements to make. Now, they are part of Embracer Group, and Embracer themselves also had some other stuff alongside of it, but it makes sense that Warhorse would make these announcements because Embracer had an entire slide deck that they put out for investors along with earnings and all kinds of other financial information. But they would love to make this sort of announcement, because you can see this over on their social media account saying, you might have heard the rumors, it's time to reveal what we are working on. Okay, so they have an open world Middle-earth RPG, or, I looked at that and said, oh, open world Lord of the Rings RPG. And then they also have a new Kingdom Come adventure. All right, say we're excited to tell you more when the time is right. And I've already said multiple times, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 just did not click with me. I was not really a big fan of it necessarily. And I think it was just, I don't know, the mechanics, the world. I understand the world itself feels like very alive, and I just kind of feel like maybe it was some of the RPG elements to it. It felt very tedious at times for me. But people really seem to get a kick out of it. Obviously it was a nominee for Game of the Year for many different places as well, so they obviously have the talent to be able to pull off something like a Kingdom Come Deliverance, a new one, or whatever their adventure is. But I also think they certainly have the talent to pull off an open world Middle-earth or Lord of the Rings RPG. And I kind of feel like it would be, I don't think it's gonna be exactly the same as something like a Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. I do feel like they would want to make it somewhat different, maybe in terms of the mechanics, or obviously in terms of the world, since they can then use kind of the Middle-earth, the lore and everything else that they would want to here. But this is very, very interesting. It's just, I feel like we haven't had like super high quality. I don't know if it's just me. I mean, I'm not the biggest Lord of the Rings person or anything. I feel like there hasn't been great Lord of the Rings games for a while. Am I off on that? I do remember back in the day, Lord of the Rings on the Xbox or the GameCube and the PS2, those were really, really good and a lot of fun. But I mean, I guess we had Shadow of Mordor, Shadow of War. Those were good, but the studio's like gone now, and Nemesis system locked away, and I don't know. But in this case, though, I do like the idea of bringing in Warhorse, who clearly has shown they can pull something like this off, and attach them to a massive IP like that, and just let them go to work. So I'm going to keep an eye on this one again. I'm like somewhat tepid because of Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, but I'm at least curious to see what they can do with the Middle-earth open world RPG, and I guess the next Kingdom Come Deliverance adventure, because maybe they try something a little different and I end up liking it more. We'll see. And in our last bit of news, let's stick with Embracer Group here for a moment, as they had some other big announcements to make, specifically bringing back some older franchises that have either like failed spectacularly recently or just kind of fizzled out. And this we can see, this is over on page 39 of the slide deck that they released. Okay, so here they're discussing IP management. And then at the bottom, it says under leveraged brand equity that we intend to activate. This is part of their vault. And you can just see a list of different titles here: Deus Ex, Saints Row, Time Splitters, Thief, Red Faction, Legacy of Kain, and more. So I'm looking at this, right? I'm thinking, okay, these would all be games, but I guess they could even look to use some of them maybe for, we see a big push right now for taking video game properties and turning them into movies or TV series or something. And I guess they go that route, but I look at this like treasure trove of IPs that if done right, I feel like could be fairly successful, even with somewhat limited scope, say with Thief, right? I do understand that Deus Ex is probably the franchise that most people right now are like, that one, we need another one of those, because I ran a poll and I saw in the comments, people were like, they kind of need to, where the story was left. So can we please do that? Which we'll look at how the poll results came out. I know Saints Row wasn't, obviously not popular, was not a great game like the most recent one. It was not good. But you'd think that they would have learned something from that. Time Splitters, they attempted and that didn't work out. So maybe they take another swing at that. Red Faction, though, I will say out of all these, that might be the dark horse, because I think just with the technology now versus, I mean, you think about what Red Faction was doing on the PlayStation 2, or even to a degree, the Xbox 360, the destruction elements were super impressive. So I'm thinking now, okay, this is a game that probably wouldn't come out for 3 or 4 years. So they're immediately thinking, oh, PlayStation 6 or Xbox Helix. I'm thinking they could do some really impressive stuff with that franchise from a technology aspect. And that would be awesome. That'd be really, really cool. So it's like, to me, it's that, Deus Ex, Time Splitters, like there's so many things that they can work through to have, I think, a bunch of different releases, but it really comes down to management with Embracer, because that's always the question mark with them. Like, can they actually pull this off? Having like that list of IPs and have to tell investors, we're gonna activate these. It's like, what have they been doing this whole time? Mostly mismanaging and canceling projects and then releasing whatever Saints Row was. So here's hoping Embracer maybe can get things sorted out and actually get some of these games out at, we'll even just, the bar is not high right now for some of these titles. So I'm just going to say at a decent level. And before we go to the comment of the day, we'll take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I asked, which of these franchises from Embracer would you be most interested in seeing return with a new game? And Deus Ex was indeed the #1 vote, and it makes sense to me. And then Time Splitters at 30%. I think it'd be fun just to have an arcade style or like online shooter like a Time Splitters. It's just, everything wants to be this live service thing. If they bring back Time Splitters and it's a $40 game and it's just straight up, hey, it's arena based first-person arcade shooter, and that's it. We're not gonna do some like roadmap and here's battle passes and extra currency. It was like, hey, we're just gonna make a game. Oh, cool. That alone would feel different than everything just about we have in the market right now. Saints Row, I'm surprised that actually beat Red Faction again. It did not leave a great impression with the last one. I just feel like a lot of people don't know about Red Faction, and that's fine. It's not like we had a bunch of really good ones or anything recently, but that could also sort of play into the idea of it's almost like reintroducing a franchise to a new generation and it's new to them. So it very well could blow people away. Very much like I was blown away by Red Faction back on the PS2. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day as you're seeing here. This is from Makazi, who says, I definitely remember you talking about that transaction exploit months ago when it was first discovered. Sony still hasn't fixed that? Smells like a lawsuit is incoming. I don't know what the deal is, because you're right. I went back and looked, and we had actually discussed this a while ago. So it's just, I guess it's something that's still ongoing, because a lot of it does have to deal with their automated chatbot that just sort of gives up when you show them a transaction ID along with the PSN account. Very, very strange that Sony wouldn't have caught this, because I feel like there are many people out there that this has happened to, and we only hear about the handful that are, yeah, big enough to make noise about it. You know, like, I'm sure there are people who just went, I guess that's it. I'm just not getting my account back, because it doesn't seem like PlayStation support is super helpful when all this goes down. I mean, weeks even at times to be able to get an account back, if at all. So I'm sure there are many people out there who just stopped playing games, or at very minimum stopped playing PlayStation because they lost their account, and what they cancel their credit card to make sure that's off the account, and that's kind of it. You just sort of move on or open a new account. But yeah, that's something Sony definitely needs to get figured out. And I actually think they need to address it somewhat publicly, because it's only gotten louder and louder as we've gone along, with one of the big boiling points recently being, of course, Colin Moriarty with Sacred Symbols. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. If you missed yesterday's Newswave, I'll leave it up here in a card. Or maybe you wanted to hear about a feature that every controller I think going forward needs. I actually looked into one that is not as expensive as you think, and I'll leave that in a video right below. Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.